And welcome everybody to the PCS Like a Pro show. I'm your host, Megan Harless, as always, and I'm excited for you guys to join us today. We're going to be talking about something really cool that I found and excited to talk with the owner of the shop who created all that good stuff. Before we get into that, I want to give you a little bit of update. If you are in the process of preparing for an OCONUS move and you're going to be shipping your POV through the military coming up, there have been some updates as of April 1st. There's going to be some updates to the proof of ownership that you're going to have to show at your VPC appointment when you go to turn your car in for shipping. If you are shipping your car after April 1st and you already have your appointment made, go ahead, call your VPC, make sure you got everything that you need confirmed and together there, so that way you show up with everything that you need. We've got the link for that on the PCS My POV site dropped into the comments here, so that way you guys can go and check out what those new documents are that you're going to be needing for turning your car in to be able to ship it for your OCONUS move. So just make sure, check that site out, get all the updated information there, everything that you need to know. So as we get into today, I want to welcome Shay here to join us today. And Shay, if you can just take a minute to tell us about yourself.
Hello, thanks for having me. My name is Shay. I'm the owner of BoxOps, and we are an Army family. We went from Rucker to Fort Riley to Fort Bliss, and now we're at Fort Campbell. So we've done 4 PCSs total. I think about 7 or 8 actual moves. We've moved a couple of times in between that, but 4 PCSs. And yeah, we're an Army family, Army Aviation, and I've got two little kids. And yeah, so I'm just enjoying growing a business now.
So as we start off, can you tell us first, what is BoxOps?
So my goal with BoxOps is to specialize specifically in unique and creative solutions that don't yet exist for the moving industry. So and if something does exist, my goal is to make it better, using my own experiences with my own moves. Military families are have the most familiarity with this industry. So I feel like I just can capitalize on that and take my own knowledge and kind of help others who maybe aren't in the familiar with the moving industry, because our business as a whole serves the entire moving industry, not just military. Obviously, military is a big part of our market, but my goal is to serve anybody who's moving. So yeah, we specialize in moving supplies. Right now, obviously, we have the organizational tools, but my goal is to keep growing that and keep expanding with all the typical moving supplies you would see online, moving boxes, tape, all that stuff. And thinking long-term, hopefully maybe getting into maybe the tech space as well, but that's way, down the line, obviously. So, but I do have a lot of ideas that are just always floating around.
So what was your inspiration in creating BoxOps and the system that we're going to talk about today?
So obviously each move is I feel like it's just a repeat of chaos. I mean, it's hard to improve the moving experience in its current state. Like each move is just utter chaos, and no matter how hard you try, right? You can do all the planning and purging and prep work, and it's still just stressful and chaotic. Mm-hmm. So my goal was to find a solution that kind of eases the burden of move-in day specifically. I think it was 2018, which I'm sure you remember that moving season. That was like, I feel like, I don't know if that was a really extra bad moving season. That summer was really bad.
Yeah. No,
I can remember even seeing you starting like your petition that summer, right? Was that the year?
It was that year. 2018 just felt like until we got to the supply chain issues of 2021.
Yes.
2018 was just a very bad year for like everybody all around.
It was like the bubble was bursting, and it was just a really bad year for so many people, me included. We went from Riley to Bliss, and they lost like a third of all of our furniture and our house. I mean, most of our kitchen stuff was gone, all my silverware, all my dishes, like everything. So we were just living in this house. I was super pregnant. My husband was TDY. So I'm sitting there with a toddler, like, how do I do this? We don't have half of our sectional. We don't have a bunch of our furniture, none of our kitchen stuff. A lot of my antiques were missing. And I was like, I didn't do this. I didn't plan very well. I wasn't organized. I wasn't prepared. And but it's one of those things where when you're not super familiar with moving, you don't know what you don't know. You can't possibly know something that you're not educated on or that you have experience with. So, my goal, not only with creating solutions such as my products, but also I hope to kind of educate people through that, kind of like what you're doing. Just the education aspect of it. I hope to have like a really helpful blog with lots of resources, as well as checklists and things like that. I just felt like, I could have done a lot more planning and preparation, but a lot of this information isn't really out there online. You can only do so much digging. And, I know the FMCSA has a lot of resources, and the military community has resources, but for people in the everyday moving world, it's hard to find. So that was my goal. I just had a really bad experience, and my goal is to try and turn that around and have people prevent other people from picking up the pieces of a really bad move. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it always seems to happen when our spouses are deployed and we're pregnant, because I have a similar situation to that too.
Yeah, I think we all do.
Like, why?
Yep.
Looking in the comments, we've got Paulette joining us today. Anybody that's watching, you guys got questions for Shay as we go through this today, don't hesitate to drop them in the comments. We'd love to be able to get them answered for you. So let's get into the products of BoxOps. And I bought a kit because we're preparing for our PCS this coming summer. And I am a big fan of room labels. I always have used them, but the ones I've used in the past have been like the cheap ones. I've usually like fallen off. So like only half the boxes have them. And so I was looking for something better. And one of my friends was just like, you should check out BoxOps and take a look at it. And I was just like, you know what, let's do it. And I got them, and I'm very impressed with the quality of the products. And so very excited to use it for our PCS. So as you talk about, I'm going to show some of the stuff from my kit, but what can you just walk us through like the products and the different kits that you offer with BoxOps?
Yeah. So like you said, I have also used other products from other companies, and a lot of these companies, on Amazon and other places are just large corporations that are selling them in bulk, and they're getting the very cheapest materials, usually from overseas in China or whatever it is. So some of those companies are actually out of the country. And so all of our products are made here. Our manufacturers in Texas. I actually found them when I was living in Texas, and I still work with them. And so the thing that was my focus was, how can I improve this and make it better? And so I was like studying a lot of the reviews, and there were some common themes such as the size of the font, the adhesive. So I made sure that my adhesive is permanent, which obviously is really important for people who have like long-term moves where it's going to be sitting for a long time, either in storage or heading overseas, long distance, as well as just, trying to make sure it doesn't fall off in humidity and things like that. So that was my priority, was like, how can I make this better? And so our labels are 4x4, whereas a lot of the labels online are much smaller than that. So the font is a lot bigger, easier to read. And so actually my original designs were not how they are. They were just, just one word with some lines that you could write on. And I was going through my own move, and I was like, man, this would be so much better if I could like see it from both sides, because otherwise you have to place multiple labels on each side of the box. So I started wrapping my own labels around the corner, and I was like, hold on, I think I'm onto something here. So that was when I redesigned them. And I did all the designs myself in Illustrator. I kind of taught myself how to use it. And so now they wrap around the corners of the box. So that way they are two-sided, basically. They're visible from two sides. And so if the boxes are stacked on moving trucks or stacked in like the living room or whatever, you can kind of pick out what goes where. So
so I really like that they do wrap around, and it gives you a place where you could write like the box number on them too, because we know so often like those inventory tags like also fall off. So you're trying to do process of elimination. Like it says boys' bedrooms, like which boys' bedroom box did I not check off yet? And then like hope there's only one that you didn't check off and that it's it. So you have several different kits, and I don't know which kit I bought. I think I bought like
I
your
think you
biggest
got the Pro
one.
Mover one. You got the big
Yes.
one. It has the door signs as well. So the door signs
Yes.
were something that came shortly after the labels, because I was like, how can I make this? Because my thought was, when I was moving in, when I had my my own bad move in 2018, my husband was TDY. I was very pregnant. My mom was in town. That was like the one saving grace that I had. But other than that, it was just total chaos. I mean, you've got movers running around everywhere. You're trying to direct them and guide them around the house. I mean, and I'm exhausted. I'm like 8 months pregnant or something. And, I've got the kid running around. I've got 3 dogs. I mean, it's chaos. And so I was like, how can I make this where it's just streamlined? And so the door signs kind of came to mind. And I've seen other solutions where they have like little tags or whatever it is. But I wanted the door signs that are nice and big and easily visible and color coded to match the labels. And so that was how I came up with those. And so just been kind of growing the colors and bedrooms.
So you've got the labels that are like for the bedroom, the one shade of green. There is a matching shade of green door hanger for it, which is awesome because that you can put it on your door and you're not having to direct traffic as much because your crew can easily match color to color. And that way it gives you more time to be able to focus on checking the boxes off and looking for damage on the furniture.
Exactly. That was my exact goal, was like spending more time focusing on the more important tasks.
Yeah, and everything. So I definitely love how it has those room labels and you don't have to, because I would always do that too. I'd always put like one of the cheap labels on like a piece of paper and tape that piece of paper to like the door.
Yeah,
and
yeah. And how much time do you, I mean, I see people writing on like Post-it notes and stuff, and I'm like, that's just too time consuming. We don't have time for that anymore.
Yeah, no, this makes it so easy, especially with my kids, because now I can hand them the door hanger, that their color-coded door hanger, and they can
it makes it fun for the kids too. The kids can help label boxes. It makes it fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we got Carl here talking about the color coding being a very cool idea. It makes it easier and more simple, and you're not trying to decipher what it is that's written on your box. Because
and I've had a lot of movers reach out too and say how cool it is, and people have come back to me and said my movers loved this, because people always ask me, can I use this with movers? And I'm like, yes, that's what it's for. But the label, so let me go into the kits that you asked about. So the Label Hero, the roomies and the Label Hero, those are specifically just labels that you can buy, and those are ideal for any type of move. You can use them whether you're using movers or just doing a DIY. But those are most popular amongst DIY movers. And then the Room ID system and the Pro Mover kit, those both include the door signs. And those are the ones that you would want that would work best with a moving company or like a packing crew, actually an unpacking crew, because you're going to want to use the door signs on move-in day when the loading crew is there to kind of unload the moving truck. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, and it makes it easy. And I imagine like even with people doing it themselves using the labels, because you're not having to use your Sharpie and like write every, the room and stuff. Again, give it to your kids and they can easily put it on.
Exactly.
And everything. We kind of worked with our kids with how their names are, and the first letter of their names there happens to be a color that corresponds with it. And so they always know, like Blake is blue and Grant is green. And so you're able to give them what they need, and they can get to work for you and help you out and be a part of it.
Exactly. And I've heard too that a couple of spouses have said, who are Oconus, they were going, Japan to the Netherlands or, somewhere else. And they said that the color coding actually helps around language barriers as well, because they can just see the colors. They don't have to worry about what the word says. They don't have to worry about, if you write in Sharpie on the box or whatever, like sometimes the language barriers, everything gets lost in translation. And so everything ends up in kind of mixed up in the wrong rooms and stuff. So the colors, all they have to do is follow that, assuming they're not colorblind, but in that case they can usually just read the word. So
yes, no, absolutely. So we got a comment here from Stacy that she's so jealous that she didn't know about this idea before now, and how awesome of an idea it is. And like I said, the quality of the products is something that I was really impressed with, because it was just like, is this going to be similar to what I already get like on Amazon? And I can tell everybody, like, it is definitely not the same as Amazon. It's definitely a lot better. And I like the size of the labels and how everything is color coded. I think that will just go a long way into just helping the process of moving.
I do want to warn that because I did choose the permanent adhesive, it is permanent. So don't stick it on your furniture because it'll ruin the furniture. I always say too, if you want to use it on plastic bins, you can, but just know that it's going to be a pain to get off. And then what I recommend is if you do want to take it off the plastic totes afterwards, use painter's tape or like a softer adhesive underneath. Put that on first and then place the label on top of the painter's tape. And that way at the end of the move, it just slides right off easy. So
yeah, no, absolutely.
But no furniture. And you can wrap the furniture in plastic wrap and then label the outside.
Yeah, no, definitely. Let them wrap your furniture first and then put the label on so you can easily see which room that it needs to go into. So where can someone find you to be able to get their own kit?
Yes. So right now we're still primarily on Etsy. My goal is to expand to Amazon, and I've also been working on a Shopify store as well. But the Amazon and all that is taking a long time. It's just my products are very labor intensive right now. It's still just me. I haven't grown out of my home yet, so the products itself are labor intensive. I'm working all day on breaking down labels, breaking down rolls, assembling into sets by hand. So it's time consuming. So that's kind of what's been holding me back on getting on the other platforms. I mean, and it's not a bad thing. I have a lot of sales on Etsy, which has been keeping me busy. But hopefully soon I can expand to the other marketplaces. But right now, and the link for that is boxops.etsy.com.
So we dropped the link for that in the comments. I went and found it earlier today and we'll provide it to you all. Because it definitely is a system that I think should be included with every PCS because it's definitely going to help make that process much smoother. And if you guys stick around and watch as I document our PCS coming summer, you're going to be able to see it in action as I use it because it is such a good system and a good idea. So what is your future? I know this was one of the questions I sent you before, but what is your future, like the next big thing with BoxOps coming, your future goals or the next thing you want to be able to accomplish with it? And how can we as a community be able to help support you in that?
Yeah. So my goal right now is to keep growing the moving labels side. And yes, I do ship overseas. If it's an APO address, I definitely do. APO, FPO, whatever it is. I just use post office priority mail. But yeah, so my goal is to get the moving boxes off the ground. I have a lot of creative ideas for moving boxes. I don't want to speak too much on that yet, but I have a lot of interesting ideas in that realm. If I can get that off the ground, the one thing holding me back right now is I need to get like a storage space or something for them because obviously moving boxes are huge and they take up a lot of space. I don't have room for pallets of boxes in my home. So that's the obstacle I'm trying to overcome right now is getting storage for it or because obviously, warehouses and stuff are really expensive. So yeah, that's my next goal. And from there, once I can expand into a new space, it would just be up from there. And yeah, so the only thing that I would ask for everybody is to just share my business name in any of the groups, the military spouse groups, or with friends, local pages. Yeah, just share us around.
No, absolutely. And I'm hoping my little fingers crossed that by our next PCS after this one, those boxes will be available and the next things that we can be able to move on and have the full complete BoxOps system and experience with that. Yeah. So let's shift gears a little bit to talk about your own military life experience and story. So when it comes to PCSing, are you team do it yourself or team let's let the movers handle it, and why?
So I would say, so we've done a lot of Diddy moves, and there's there's big pros and cons to both. I would say Diddy moves, you have way more control over timeline, having access to your things on the back end. That's a huge pro because going, during the summer season, the moving companies can be really backlogged. So going weeks to months without your stuff is like awful. And sometimes you don't have a choice, right? I mean, if you're going Oconus, you got to let the movers just take control. Just let them do it. You don't need that stress. But I would say stateside, my experience with the moving company kind of traumatized me a little bit because they lost a lot of, really important stuff to me.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, they did end up finding a crate about 3 months later and showed up with it on my due date. But some of the stuff they never found. So with that, I would say I vote partial Diddy, just because I think it's still nice and convenient to have the government movers there to take the majority of your stuff. But if you are able to, I would get like a really small trailer that you can pull behind and tow, just with your valuables, some kitchen items, maybe if you can fit some mattresses or bedding, high value items. Obviously, you can't pack things like firearms, medications, whatever it is that you want to hand carry with you, documents. So, but I would say the cons of the Diddy moves is obviously theft is a big issue with U-Hauls, rental equipment. We see that happening a lot. So securing the rental equipment is important. And Diddy moves are just really stressful. We did a Diddy move our last time, and it was just overwhelming. I mean, and the U-Haul trucks aren't nearly as big as I thought they were. Even the biggest size, I feel like I'm always having to get rid of so much stuff because not everything fits on the truck. So then when you get to your new home, you're like, wow, I need to buy all this stuff all over again. So it's expensive. So yeah, I'm team partial Diddy. If you can take your valuables and your important stuff with you, do it, and then let the government movers take the rest. Especially if you have a lot of furniture that's easily replaceable. So
yeah, no, we kind of fall into that same, but we did a Diddy once many years ago, and the good joke, like doing a Diddy is a good test of your marriage.
Oh yeah.
My husband, like after that, he was like, never again, because it was before we had all the container companies, and so he drove this giant Penske truck from West Virginia to Kansas, and getting this big truck into like these tiny little gas stations before all the big truck stops popped up and everything, and so it was not something that he really enjoyed. And so every now and then, when PCS time comes, I'm like, we could totally do a Diddy. Like I could go ahead and get that stuff packed up.
Every time we always say that.
And he's just like, no.
It's like moving amnesia. You just forget how miserable it was.
I'm just like, but there's container companies now. We can use one of them. Like you don't have to drive the truck anymore, honey. And he's just like, no, like I'd rather not.
I'm so glad that those container companies have like kind of, I mean, it's such a good idea. Like ABF, UPAC, SD Sure Move, all those companies, like load it up and send it with them. Let them drive it. It's such a good idea. So I'm a big fan of those too.
Yeah. So it's fun. So we get from Destin here that her husband learned to just let her handle it and do it. And he just keeps quiet and is the muscle of stuff, which generally happens in our house too, that I just tell my husband what's happening and he just does what needs to happen.
I send my husband off with my kids. During the week of packing, I will send my husband, I tell him just take the kids and go and don't come home for a couple hours. Because I'm the packer. I'm kind of like a control freak when it comes to packing because I know my husband will just like shove it in a box and not worry about it. So I try to pack. I have him take the kids and let them go do some fun stuff for a day. And then, he's the muscle on moving day. He does a lot of the loading. So
yeah, absolutely. And then a good comment here from John. Love to see this innovative approach. Happy to see entrepreneurs solve problems. And I just have to say, I mean, it's the saying, like, have you met a milspouse? Like, if there's a problem, like, we probably have a way to solve it. Like, just give us a minute and some money and we can handle all the issues.
Exactly.
But I mean, you'll find there's a lot of military spouse entrepreneurs out there with products and systems that can help make, whether it's PCSing or education, just whatever it is, more easier and simple because we've been there, we've struggled. It shouldn't be this hard. Others shouldn't have to go through it too. Let me just create this and help them.
Exactly.
So of the locations that you've been to, what has been your favorite location and your least favorite location?
I would say my favorite, hands down, was Fort Bliss. I loved Fort Bliss, Texas. It's in El Paso, and it was just a really nice change of scenery. I mean, we had been in the Deep South, we've been in the Midwest. I'm from Philadelphia, so I've been all up and down the East Coast, Virginia, North Carolina. But El Paso was just a really nice change of pace. Desert life, no humidity, warm pretty much year round. I can remember like being outside in shorts and a t-shirt on Christmas. And in February, I was outside drinking coffee in shorts in the morning. We rented a house with a pool. A lot of houses there have pools just because of the climate. But and that was just like, I just felt like I was at a resort all the time. And, you know, the beautiful mountain views there. So yeah, that was probably my favorite place. And Fort Bliss, the actual base is pretty built up too. I mean, they did a really good job of renovating it and stuff. And then I would say I don't necessarily dislike any of the places we've been, but Fort Rucker I liked Fort Rucker, and it was accessible to the beach, and you know, I had a job that I liked there, and friends, and we didn't have kids yet, so we had a blast with friends. But I don't know if I would really want to go back there, just because there's not a whole lot of amenities. You have to drive pretty far all the way to Dothan to get to anything, and then so it's kind of a toss-up between that and Fort Riley. I loved Fort Riley. I loved Manhattan, Kansas. But the climate there, I can't do it. I can't do the Midwest climate. It's awful. The humidity, the extreme humidity, and then the extreme cold. It's like colder than Alaska some days. I swear. I was like comparing. It was like 0 degrees or negatives all the time. So it was a really brutal climate there. So going from Kansas to El Paso was like, you know, that's why I liked El Paso so much, probably.
Good change of pace. Yeah. No, Fort Riley was our very first duty station, and of all the ones that we've been at, it's the duty station that is also my least favorite.
Really? Yeah. I love like the limestone and the historical aspect. If you could like pick up Manhattan and move it somewhere else that's not in the Midwest for me, then I would like it.
So if anybody knows or doesn't know, so Manhattan is like the town outside of Fort Riley, and you got Kansas State University that is there. So it's basically a college town.
Yeah.
But when we were there, it was either you went to the lake, was it Milford?
Milford Lake, I think. Yeah.
You either went there and you went fishing every weekend, or you were heavily into the college bar scene. And so for me, my husband, like that wasn't our stage of life. And so being put here in the middle of kind of nowhere in the middle of the US, it was just like, what do we do?
And you're 2 hours from a major airport, which is in Kansas City. And so we were lucky to be stationed with a lot of our flight school friends. That was our first duty station outside of flight school. And so we had a blast, just because for part of the time we still didn't have kids yet. And so, you know, that was like probably the only reason that I enjoyed my time there. But yeah, after having kids, it's kind of like, okay, there's a park and a pool, and that's about it.
So, and I did not enjoy the weather of Fort Riley either. We were there during a season where there were a lot of tornadoes, and
yes,
did not enjoy living in our basement for a week. Was not.
That's what we're dealing with. I deal with that now in Tennessee too. Tennessee has been super active for tornadoes, so we actually installed a tornado shelter in our garage. So I'm happy to have that now.
So my storm anxiety comes from Fort Riley. I always blame everything that happens. It's because of Fort Riley.
The storms there would get crazy, scary.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so as we wrap up, so what piece of advice would you want to pass on to other spouses?
I would say the first thing that comes to mind is the either move-in day or leading up to move-in day, but especially move-in day if possible. Both moving days, move out and move in, to get childcare if possible, get a babysitter, because that kind of releases you from responsibility of focusing on them and helping them and, you know, daily tasks with kids. And so you can just focus on the packing and the loading and or where things are going in your house, making sure that furniture gets reassembled, checking for damage. You can put all of your attention on the important stuff. And the same thing goes for pets. If you can get a pet sitter or a boarding facility, or like lock them away, because I'm sure you've heard all the stories of, you know, cats getting packed. And I mean, it's just, you know, not having the pets around is an extra thing that you don't have to worry about. And something else, we have do not pack tools in our shop as well. So you can use the do not pack tools to kind of block off spaces that have like suitcases or documents, all your hand carry items. So you can use those to kind of send a bold message to your movers to stay out of that space or that room or whatever. I think we talked about too, protecting the rental equipment. there's, some resources online you can look up to protect your U-Haul truck or whatever it is. What else? Oh, and then the last thing would be take pictures of everything. Before the movers show up, have a high value inventory sheet, and just go around your house and get all of the serial numbers and all the important stuff logged. It doesn't have to be every little thing, but all the high value stuff, your antiques, anything that might be considered high value, your china, things like that, and take pictures of everything. What I did was I took pictures of every single room, as well as I had pictures of some drawers, my closets, furniture, just different spaces. And those pictures ended up coming in handy during our claim that we filed with the moving company, because I had pictures of every room, and I was like, oh, that's like, it helped me remember, oh, that's missing. Oh, that's missing. And so I had proof of its existence. And so that helped a lot. Even if something wasn't listed on the inventory, I was able to, and this doesn't always work. I think it depends on the company and whether they're willing to negotiate with you. But I did have proof of that my item existed. And so I was able to claim it. And those pictures really came in handy, because I was able to remember, even just the smallest of items, like my baby bibs were gone, various pieces of silverware, various coffee mugs. And that really adds up in the end. So my advice is to just, if you have to go through a claim every little thing, even if it's a little candle vase or something, just something small. It adds up in the end, and there's a chance that they're going to lowball you anyway. So claim as much as you can remember, and hopefully they'll give you a reasonable amount.
Yeah, no, so many great tips there. The pictures do come in handy, as you said, just being able to remember what was there when you have to sit down and they say itemize everything, and you're like, oh shucks, like, how many of those did I really have, and what exactly was in that room? Because by the time you get through the PCS process, I feel like, we're kind of drained, and we have that memory loss that kind of happens and flows in there.
And you can't possibly remember everything you own. I mean, and most of the time when they're packing boxes, it'll just say office stuff. It's like, well, what does that mean? Was it a printer or was it a stapler? I mean, there's a difference. So
right, big difference in that. And I will tell you, with kids, PCSing gets easier as your kids get older and they're able to have a hand in it as well. I love that my kids are older and I can give them tasks to do. They hate it because they're just like, why are you making me work now? But it does get easier because you can have them be able to check off the stuff for their room. They can go put their own labels on their boxes. They can help unpack and put their room together. Totally. They can, there's so much that they're able to help do now. And so it's great when your kids get older, PCSing does get a little bit easier. So if you're there with like your young babies and toddlers and you're just like, this is crazy, I'm going to lose my mind, just know when they get a little older, they can start helping it. And I'll tell you also too, with little kids, a lot of movers are not afraid. They're happy to put together a box and let your child put their dolls or their toys or whatever in there so they can feel like they're helping and a part of the process too. Or even just put a box together, put your little child in there and give them some crayons or markers.
Give them some markers or crayons and let them draw on the boxes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We do have a quick question here from Dustin that wants to know what advice you would give for spouses also wanting to start a business.
Yeah. So the first thing that I thought about when I was starting the business, I had always kind of hoped to go into the entrepreneur space, but it took a couple of years to kind of come up with identifying a real problem. So I would say first thing is to identify a real problem, because it has to be, you have to come up with a solution that's actually going to sell. It doesn't just, you don't want to come up with something that's maybe just, you think it's a solution. Like, cause the moving labels, I was like, I have to make sure that people are going to buy this. So what I did was I ordered a smaller set of labels, and I kind of just did like a test to see if they would sell, just to make sure that I had a product that was worth, investing heavily in. And so when I was able to like prove my market, then that was when I went all in. I would say, what else? I lean on people, lean on your community, your neighbors. If you ever need help with, your family, I've had family offer me a little bit of money as well. I've had my parents offer me money to start the business, because I everybody's cash strapped these days. So there's a lot of resources in the military community that are for businesses. There's one called Bunker Labs. That's a good community to join. They have a Facebook group, but they also have a website you can go on in there, and they have like an entire little social network platform inside the website. And they also have entrepreneur classes, and I think most of their resources are free. So I would say get on Bunker Labs website. Join the local spouse pages and ask questions. If it's military related, get some feedback from people, see if it's something that they'd be interested in before you kind of commit to it. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. And there's a lot out there now for startup businesses and entrepreneurs and military spouses as well. So a little Google search and some research and reaching out to other folks.
And there's so many resources out there these days that you can use for free before getting into like a paid version or whatever. Like if you're on social media, that's free. If you need social media design, you can go to canva.com. Canva they have a free version. You can create social content from there. If you're creating classes, you can, there's a couple different platforms, including social media, where you can offer services that way. It depends on if you're product-based or service-based, I guess. There's a difference there. If you're product-based, you can look at Etsy, Amazon, all that stuff. But if you're service-based, there's other options for that too. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. So anything you got, Destin, we can help get you covered one way or another to whatever it is that you're wanting to do. We can figure it out and help you, support you with that. Yeah. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Shay, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and joining us here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So everybody else, we hope that you have a great rest of your Wednesday, great rest of the week, and join us again next week, same place, same time. We'll be back talking more about PCSing and how next week is how you can give back to the community that you're departing. We're going to be talking with my good friend Marla and everything that she's doing. And so join us again then. Until then, we'll see you later.
Thank you.